Alright guys, Blue Galaxy, and more specifically, delete. Yes or no? Let's get into it. I'm not going to delete mine today because I just did it a couple weeks ago. So we're on, this is actually the second time I've deleted it and rebuilt it. First time that I deleted Blue Galaxy, I deleted it 91 and then ran it back up to 152. I actually wasn't really planning on deleting it the second time around. Um, I I kept toying with that idea, like even from BG level 120, as I kept leveling it up, I kept toying with the idea of deleting it. I just didn't really see um, an immediate uh, incentive to do that, I guess. A lot of it does depend on what you're after in your city, and if you don't have a reason to delete BG, I wouldn't say do it just for funsies because it definitely is a project. So at around 120, 125, I was like, I kind of want to delete it, but I don't have a reason to, so I'll just keep leveling it. Got up to 152, deleted it again, and I'm currently at level 90 and plan on deleting it again in about 4 or 5 days. So the delete button is pretty easy to hit on Blue Galaxy for me. There's a lot of people who don't understand that or don't agree with that strategy or that concept. So let's break it down. On a side note too, before we actually get into it, um, the first time I deleted Blue Galaxy, people just thought I was nuts, but the results were awesome for me. Since then, I'm on career, and since then, I've convinced um, one person to do it. After my initial delete cycle, I convinced another top player to delete his Blue Galaxy. He had really great results from the process. He was happy, but for the most part, that first cycle for me went unnoticed to the rest of the server. The second time around, when I deleted Blue Galaxy 152, at the point I was number three on the server in terms of building level, and for a long time before that, I was number one. It was a couple guild mates that had passed me in the last few weeks or so, but for a very long time, I was number one on the server after deleting it once before. So to delete 152 at that point, people started asking questions like, this has to be insanity, right? And I've done some weird stuff in the game. I will admit, like I have an Oracle of Delphi that I've thrown a lot of forge points at, and for the most part, it is a joke. I, I actually like the Oracle of Delphi. I don't mind the 3x3 location for it, but for the most part, it is a joke, right? Deleting Blue Galaxy 152 is not a joke, and there's a mathematical reasoning behind that. And the second time around that I deleted it, it got a lot of attention, and there's a lot of people on the server now asking what the mechanics of that are, because there is obviously a reason to do it at that point. It's not like an impulsive thing, like, so I deleted my chateau as well. I did that intentionally, and I did not rebuild it. I just got tired of doing the recurring quests. There's so many moving parts in the game these days between events, QI, GE, GVG. There's so many moving parts that omitting RQ from my daily routine just was worth the peace of mind more than anything, honestly. So I deleted CF very intentionally. Don't miss it, and I'm not going to rebuild it. But deleting Blue Galaxy 152 for the sole purpose of rebuilding it seems circular and um, like kind of suicidal. But there's a reason why it works, and there's a reason why people are starting to ask, okay, how does it work? Because the assumption there is they already know it does work, but how does it work? Um, I'm definitely not the first person in the game to do this, but definitely the first to do it as abusively as I have in career. Like it, the delete Blue Galaxy was a very new concept when I started doing it here in career. I'm sure that other players have done this on other servers, but in career it's a pretty new concept. So I'm going to make this a public video for YouTube and explain my strategy and my thinking. And if you play on other servers and you're already familiar with some of this, feel free to chime in the comments. But let's keep it respectful. and mathematical. Like if you emotionally don't want to delete your blue galaxy, that's fine. I don't blame you. It's hard to delete any great building, especially if you're just intending to replan it again from zero. That's hard on any great building, but leave the emotion out of it. If we're gonna have a conversation about this, let's look at the math on it. All of that said, I am gonna give you guys the skeleton of my recipe, but I'm not gonna give you the step-by-step daily instructions for two different reasons. Number one, I do want to keep this video somewhat short. There's a lot of information to consider, but I do want to keep it somewhat short. And the second reason is that I don't necessarily want to give you a formula that I've dialed in, that's that's going to create extra competition against me, if that makes sense. I want to give you guys enough to work with, but I'm not going to help you become better than me. I'm going to help you become at least as good as me, and you'll have to get creative and fill in the blanks. Hope that's fair. All right, so let's get into it. Three things to consider before you actually pull the trigger on deleting Blue Galaxy. Number one is, do you have enough blueprints to rebuild it? And this is the only one that is potentially prohibitive in the process. The other two are just things that you need to consider before you do it. But regardless of your answer to the question on number two and number three, deleting Blue Galaxy is still profitable and justified. The only thing that's actually prohibitive on deleting Blue Galaxy is just your blueprint quantity. I plan on deleting Blue Galaxy at least 6 more times in this cycle, and I have the blueprints to justify that, with plenty left over at the end of the cycle in case I want to do it again in the future. But definitely make sure that you have enough blueprints to actually execute this, and probably plan on, if you are going to delete Blue Galaxy, probably plan on deleting it twice back to back, would be my recommendation. So make sure that you have at least 200 prints of each tile on Blue Galaxy before you commit to this. That's the only one that's potentially prohibitive. The other number two and number three questions are just something to consider as you come into this project. Store kits and FSP kits, how many do you have stocked? But also, how many do you produce daily? Deleting Blue Galaxy is a very aggressive strategy, and there's a lot of changes that happen in the city on a daily basis. So I actually edit my city every single day as I go through Blue Galaxy levels. And once you have a system down, those edits are pretty quick. Usually takes me about 5 minutes to edit my city, store some hardware, move a few pieces, replant new hardware as I generate it, save that edit for the next day, rinse and repeat. So it's just 5 minutes here and there throughout the process. If you wait till the end of your Blue Galaxy cycle to make those changes, it kind of defeats the point of deleting Blue Galaxy, in my opinion. The purpose of deleting Blue Galaxy, which I'm going to explain more in detail, but the purpose of deleting it in the first place is to make rapid changes that you would not be able to make with a stagnant Blue Galaxy, like a level 120 or a level 130 or whatever, where that Blue Galaxy is not moving a whole lot every day. So the hardware changes that you are making are also happening at a slower pace. Does that make sense? But if you're running 5 or 6 levels of Blue Galaxy a day, the changes that you're making to your city happen pretty quickly. So how many store kits and FSP kits do you have in inventory, and how many do you produce daily? This question is not prohibitive. Regardless of your answer to this, you can still delete Blue Galaxy and have pretty awesome results, but it's just something that we need to consider before we actually pull that trigger. Third question, last question, what is your goal with the project? Do you want to accumulate more forge points? The player that I mentioned at the beginning of the video, the first guy to follow my lead on this here in Conrear, deleted his Blue Galaxy at level 91. It might have been 100, I don't know. I think he's back up to around 91 now, though. And his goal was forge points. And he has been pretty consistently making about 2,500 forge points per day in profit, above what his normal collection was before he deleted it. Just during the act of recycling it. So if you're after forge points, it's definitely doable. He's not necessarily targeting fragments, but he's accumulating them in the process. So that would be the second objective. Do you want building fragments? Are you recycling Blue Galaxy to print more fragments of certain buildings? This second option is true for me in my case, and for the most part, my FP cost of Blue Galaxy is covered throughout these levels for the most part. But there are definitely levels where I'm taking a loss on the FP cost of Blue Galaxy and just paying for the level out of my inventory, forge points. But I'm generating the fragments that I want. So that's my particular goal in this project. 3 things to consider before we start. Let's get into planning. I mean, honestly, you could just delete it right now and then wing it, and you'd still come out ahead, honestly. So there really isn't a whole lot of planning involved before you delete, but as you go through the recycle process, there is a lot of forethought involved. So let's explain a few things that we're looking for as we actually go through the process of deleting and rebuilding. FSP kits are going to be the main deciding factor in how effective your Blue Galaxy recycle is. Like even if you have one FSP kit in storage and your city only produces one per day, I would actually still encourage you to delete Blue Galaxy, potentially, depending on the hardware that you have in inventory, but it's potentially still a viable option. There's a lot of variables with FSP that is kind of the determining factor with the Blue Galaxy recycle idea. There's 3 main variables here, so let's break those down. So scenario number 1, let's say that you have 10,000 finished special kits in your inventory, but your city produces 0 daily. All 3 of these scenarios would be a reason to delete Blue Galaxy. You have a ton of finished special kits stored, but your city produces 0 every day. You could theoretically farm really anything you wanted with 10,000 finished special kits, right? But if your city is producing 0 every day, every kit that you use is gone. So depending on what you're hitting, if you're hitting fragments of buildings like some of my videos in my YouTube channel, I was harvesting Crimson Dragon ships at one point, and you can see that I have no Crimson Dragon ships planted currently. So if I had used FSP to generate those, which I did, those FSP would be effectively wasted now because I don't have the building in my city anymore, and I don't have a way to regenerate those FSP kits. So as hardware continues to evolve throughout the game, if you're using FSP kits that you're getting from events or from QI or anything like that, but you're not regenerating them from your city, you'll eventually hit a wall where you've printed a whole bunch of obsolete hardware and there's a new trinket that comes out and you have no access to that. So that's scenario number 1 that would justify deleting Blue Galaxy. Scenario number 2 is kind of the opposite of that, where we have 0 FSP kits in storage, but we're able to produce 20 per day. So you have a consistent ability to print buildings, right? And if you get 15 charges off of Blue Galaxy, the 20 per day is enough to cover using all 15 charges of Blue Galaxy on one specific building while simultaneously generating 5 FSP kits for storage for a future day. But in scenario number 2, you're not really going to be able to sit down and plow out one specific type of building like you could if you had 10,000 FSP in storage, right? Scenario number 1 lets us print whatever building we want basically tomorrow, right? But then after that, we don't have a way to repeat that process. Scenario number 2 allows us to have this sustainable FSP intake and output, but not the ability to make those changes quickly, right? Scenario number 3, which is kind of where I was at when I deleted Blue Galaxy 152, I didn't have quite 1,000 FSP in storage, but I had about 600 or 700 FSP in storage, and also producing 20 per day. So now I have the benefit of scenario number one, where I have a lot of them in storage. I could print XYZ building quickly, and I'm also generating 20 per day, so I can continue this process, right? But my limitation being in scenario number three was that I had a blue galaxy at over 150 level, and the owner cost to level it was 28,000 forge points. So there's no individual building that you can hit 15 times with your blue galaxy charges that's going to cover that 28,000 forge point cost. There's no individual building that's going to do that. There are eco cities out there that are able to generate way more than 28,000 forge points in a full collection, but you're not getting that off of an individual building. Does that make sense? But even at that, even with an eco city that's generating, let's call it 100,000 forge points every day. Let's say that's your collection is 100,000 forge points every single day. Your total city collection is only going to cover 3 levels of blue galaxy at that blue galaxy level. So the BG charges that you're using are definitely not going to supplement that cost a whole lot. You might save 5,000 off the cost if your blue galaxy is at 150 or 160 or whatever. You might shave that cost, that owner cost, down by 5 or 6,000 each level, theoretically. But you're still going to end up paying a lot of your blue galaxy level out of your city collection. And if you choose to run more than 3 levels a day, that's going to be coming out of your FP inventory. Does that make sense? So these are 3 scenarios where deleting blue galaxy would be justified if you have an imbalance on FSP. Scenario number 4 would be the exception to this, and I only know of a few players that actually meet this criteria. If you do fall into the number 4 category, then my video is not for you, and you should definitely keep your blue galaxy and never delete it. Scenario number 4 would be if you had 10,000 FSP kits in storage, your city produces 50 daily, and you also have 5 million forge points banked. If this is not true of you, then keep watching the video. But if this is true of you, and I do have a couple friends that this is true for, mentors of mine, guys that have taught me the game, and this is definitely true for their cities. If this is true for you, then there's you have enough forge points to level, even if your blue galaxy is at level 180, you have enough forge points in storage to continue leveling it every single day, multiple times, even using your forge points from inventory at 50,000 a pop, and you have enough forge points to justify that process. You also have enough finished special kits in storage to just farm whatever you want without including blue galaxy into the cycle, and you also generate enough FSP kits every day to replenish what you're using, even if you are not hitting it with blue galaxy. So at that point, there's really no reason to delete blue galaxy. But if you are one of the 99% of the players in this game that does not meet this criteria, then keep watching my video. So we figured out we need FSP kits and store kits to make this process work. We definitely need blueprints. That's kind of a given, but don't get gung-ho and delete blue galaxy before you check your actual blueprint count. I feel like I should say that just for posterity's sake. So we need FSP and store kits. Here's where the haters come in, and this is never going to work because number 1, low percentage on a new blue galaxy. So why delete it? Your odds of getting a double are substantially lower on a new blue galaxy. This is true, but it's not necessarily a bad thing, and we can actually use it to our advantage. Can't increase your FSP production. Like if your city only makes 15 FSP kits per day, how is blue galaxy going to increase that quantity? You're going to generate the same 15 FSP kits every day, but all of a sudden you're using those FSP kits with a lower percentage blue galaxy than what you had before. Doesn't make sense, right? This is also a fallacy, and you can potentially double your daily FSP production as you delete blue galaxy. Third complaint, it's circular. Why do you need store kits? Why go through the hassle of storing something to replace it with something else with the end goal of storing this something else and replacing what you had to begin with? It seems circular, right? What are we actually gaining in this? All three of these are the complaints for deleting Blue Galaxy, and all three of them are wrong, and the wrongness in them is actually what feeds my delete strategy for Blue Galaxy to be successful. So without further ado, let's get into it. Just for context, my motivation to delete Blue Galaxy is to farm fragments for additional ecos. I have a hover level 1, which is kind of a limitation to me on the FSP side. So like with a hover level 2 or a hover level 3, your FSP kits go a lot farther than what I'm able to accomplish with a hover level number 1. So that's my motivation for deleting Blue Galaxy. Eco does give FSP kits, but the percentage is pretty low. It's 25% on the ecos for FSP. My motivation to build more ecos is actually for the forge point boost. So for the purposes of this video, let's omit the FSP benefit of eco from the equation. So let's say that I'm farming whatever. Let's say that I'm farming Yuki towers off the Crystal Cascade, where there's no FSP benefit that regenerates this process at all. I just want more Yuki towers for my city. So I'm gonna delete Blue Galaxy and harvest Crystal Cascade. So let's go with that premise for the video. In my case, I am hitting ecos, which possibly do give FSP kits, but for the most part, that's not really included in my equation here. My equation for deleting Blue Galaxy and making it work assumes that my ecos will never give me FSP kits throughout this process. They're just going to continue increasing my forge point production. That's my basic assumption here. Problem number 1 with hater logic is that deleting Blue Galaxy doesn't increase your daily forge point or FSP production, which is true if you have the mentality of a Blue Galaxy level 150 or something like that, where every single one of those charges, all 15 of those charges, are super special. You can't really afford to double dip it, and you probably don't have the FSP kits to justify running an additional level anyways. So all 15 of those Blue Galaxy charges need to be intentional. From that standpoint, it's true, but from the standpoint of Blue Galaxy level 0, my whole city is extra FSP potential. You know what I mean? I can delete Blue Galaxy and run, starting from 0, I can burn my first 8 charges on Jester, 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 Jester. And yeah, the probability's low, but the cost of the level is like 200 forge points. So at that point, I can hit a couple of Yukis that do not give FSP kits, it's just forge points. Hit a couple of Yukis, pay for the level, flip it again, hit a few more Jester, and I know the percentage of them doubling is low, I understand that, but the cost of that Blue Galaxy level is paid for by other buildings throughout the city, and if even one of these Jesters doubles on Blue Galaxy level 1, that's 3 fragments more than my city would normally generate, because my normal city, right, without deleting Blue Galaxy, my normal city looks like collect Blue Galaxy, hit this trinket 15 times, and then auto collect everything else, right? So there is no double applied to any of these Jesters. There's no double applied to my escutcheons or my Moogles temple or my Shinto, things that are guaranteed to give FSP kits every day. That Blue Galaxy benefit is never applied to any of those buildings. But by deleting Blue Galaxy, we can essentially start a city collection with Blue Galaxy 0, collect 8 Jesters, flip it, collect 9 Jesters, flip it, collect 10 Jesters, flip it, collect 11 Jesters, flip it. Just as a normal part of your collection routine, potentially everything that gives FSP kits is is potentially getting doubled in this process. And granted, the percentage is low on those early blue galaxy levels, but we're not looking for stellar ROI on those early levels of blue galaxy. The levels are cheap. Those early levels on blue galaxy are cheap. It doesn't start getting over 1,000 until like, I don't know, level 70. Up until then, every single level is under 1,000 forge points. So I have like, I don't know, 60 individual single buildings that could pay for the entire cost of a blue galaxy level throughout most of this process. My Yuki towers are giving 140 something forge points with the FP boost off of ecos. Those are giving 140 something forge points. That pays for a blue galaxy level throughout the entire sweet spot. Each individual eco covers a blue galaxy level. There's no FSP benefit on Yukis, so I don't hit them with blue galaxy. But I'll hit a jester with blue galaxy, right? And if it increases my total FSP intake, the Yuki is just the thing that levels it. Does that make sense? So the assumption here that the lower percentage on a new blue galaxy is somehow a disadvantage is a limitation, really, in the way that you're looking at your city, where you're looking at your city as I think I have 487 buildings. When I use mass aid, I think that's the number that it pops up with. So you're looking at your city as 487 buildings, and you only get to collect blue galaxy once. But the advantage with deleting blue galaxy is that you can actually collect 487 buildings with a blue galaxy from 0 to 80 if you wanted to do it that way, or potentially every single building in your city is doubled throughout the course of leveling that blue galaxy. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that, but that's the contrast to this, that the opponents to deleting blue galaxy. That's the contrast to their argument here, where you're saying that it's the percentage of blue galaxy is lower, so it's not worth the effort. But it costs me nothing. It's basically just doing a normal city collection, except that instead of 15 doubles, I'm getting potentially 200 doubles off of whatever I choose to hit as I cycle blue galaxy. Does that make sense? Hater complaint number 2, store kits. Why do you need store kits? Why are you going to delete blue galaxy and then store a bunch of good hardware? That seems circular, right? So this time around, when I deleted blue galaxy, the first time around, I was after the Flamingo event a couple years ago, year and a half ago, whatever it was. I generated a ton of Flamingo kits and alligators. It was great hardware at the time, but it's become obsolete. And so clearly all of that is in storage. This time around, I was a little bit more intentional about the long-term vision that I have for my city. And this time around, I actually stored all of my Neo Colossus, with the exception of one platinum guy. I actually stored all of my Neo Colossus, expanded my road structure, and planted every Sun Haven that I had in inventory, deleted Blue Galaxy, and then actually continued to farm the Trailside Smithy. So one by one. So if you guys are watching this video, make a mental note of this. It's called the Trailside Smithy. It's a one by one building that gives Sun Haven fragments. So if you don't have a lot of Sun Havens in your inventory, I would recommend deleting Blue Galaxy anyways, but including this little one by one guy on your Blue Galaxy charges. It gives 5 forge points and 4 goods. And cue the haters, right? Why would you waste a Blue Galaxy charge on a one by one building that gives 5 goods, or 5 forge points and 4 goods? Why would you possibly consider that? Well, remember, the Blue Galaxy level is disposable to me. It cost me 100 forge points to flip, first of all, so a single Yuki will cover the cost of the level. If it's doubled, though, it's going to help me in the long run, and if it's not doubled, it's just like collecting my city like normal anyways, except that I spent 100 of my forge points on Blue Galaxy instead of throwing it in a 1.9 thread. Big whoop. Anyways, I deleted Blue Galaxy and planted a bunch of Sun Havens, and then also hit this Trailside Smithy to produce a few more Sun Havens at the expense of my Colossus. So my attack stats are absolutely terrible right now. They're actually probably not that bad in the grand scheme of things, but they're terrible compared to what I'm used to. The trade-off though is that in the long term, as I delete Blue Galaxy, I have 23 Sun Havens. I'm down to 21 now, I think. But throughout most of this process, I had 23 Sun Havens, which covered multiple levels of Blue Galaxy. No FSP kits required. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hits with Blue Galaxy, flip Blue Galaxy, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, flip Blue Galaxy, etc. You get the idea. And cost me no FSP kits in the process. Burns up 3 Blue Galaxy levels, granted at lower levels on Blue Galaxy, so lower percentage. But with 23 Sun Havens planted, that's guaranteed 2 Jesters every 3 days, minimum. And if Blue Galaxy doubles that, I'm potentially producing a Jester a day, which is going to increase my total daily FSP production. And you can see that panned out pretty well. Proofs in the pudding. You can see that materialized in my city, that Sun Haven project actually worked out pretty well. I'm done with Sun Havens on Blue Galaxy, so I still have them planted in my city. I just don't hit them with Blue Galaxy anymore on this cycle. I'm getting up to Blue Galaxy 91 tomorrow is where I'll be at. So I'm using my Blue Galaxy charges more specifically towards eco, but on the earlier levels where the percentage of Blue Galaxy is lower, I don't mind burning up 3 Blue Galaxy levels, hitting Sun Havens, just to increase my total daily FSP production. Does that make sense? That's step number 1 here. That's also where the store kits come in. Because first of all, I needed enough store kits to get rid of all my Colossus. And secondly, I need enough store kits to store all of my Sun Havens after this project. I'm going to keep the Jesters that I've generated, but at the end of this project, I need enough store kits to put my Jesters or my Sun Havens back away and replant whatever favorable hardware that I want in my city long term. Sun Haven is a means to an end, and it's not, Sun Haven is not normally something that you would hit with Blue Galaxy, right? It's 13 forge points, I think, maybe 30 or 40 goods. It's really not an ideal Blue Galaxy candidate. With the assumption that you have a Blue Galaxy 120 and you're emotionally attached to getting the biggest return out of that cycle that you can. But if you have a Blue Galaxy level 0, Sun Haven is a perfect Blue Galaxy candidate. I mean, I would hit my victory tower with Blue Galaxy level 0. You know what I mean? You have nothing to lose at that point. So if it does double, cool. If it doesn't, just continue leveling Blue Galaxy until you do get the return on that investment. With me so far? Next and last idea here, the final step in this phase. Sun Havens I am keeping in my city currently, like I said, but I just don't hit them with Blue Galaxy anymore. They just get auto-collected with the rest of the city. And I'll continue planting Jesters as I get them and slowly chip away at the Sun Haven element. So it's kind of eating itself, essentially. As I generate more Jesters, this Sun Haven will turn into a pair of Jesters, which slows down my daily production of Jester fragments, but increases my daily FSP production. So the next 2 Jesters that I get will take a little bit longer to produce without this, the Sun Haven before it. It'll take a little bit longer to produce this next pair of Jesters, but will continue to increase my daily FSP production, just from the passive side of the city. Just auto-collect the whole city, get a few more FSP kits every day. And towards these higher levels on Blue Galaxy, now I can be a little bit more intentional about farming my hover down here at the bottom of my city with all 15 Blue Galaxy charges, which are actually pretty effective at Blue Galaxy level 91. So for most days, Blue Galaxy level 90 is giving me 14 charges, and I'm consistently getting about 10 or 11 doubles out of the 14 possible. And I honestly can't say that Blue Galaxy 152 was any more consistent. And the percentage on Blue Galaxy itself would be a pretty good indication of that. I think it's, I don't know, plus or minus a few percent. Yeah, I think it's what, 75%, 15 charges at level 152, so you have an extra 5% chance, but the level cost is really the prohibitive factor there. The advantage here is that throughout the earlier levels of Blue Galaxy, like Moogle is not something that I would normally hit with Blue Galaxy. With a high level Blue Galaxy, Moogle would not be a target for me. It's 8 times finish special, which is nice. I'm not going to complain about that. 175 goods, 108 forge points. But with a Blue Galaxy 150, like I said, I'm kind of compelled to use all 15 Blue Galaxy charges on the thing that I really want. So I'm not going to waste a Blue Galaxy charge to generate more FSP kits. If my city is already generating 15 FSP, I have 15 Blue Galaxy charges, I'm just going to use all 15 of those FSP kits hitting the building that I'm really after. Why waste a Blue Galaxy charge to generate an extra FSP kit if my city already gives me enough FSP kits to just continue farming Blue Galaxy with the building that I really want, right? The advantage with deleting Blue Galaxy, though, is that I can hit Moogle's Temple every single day with Blue Galaxy, and if it doubles or not, I don't really care, because it's just a normal collection to me. The difference with deleting Blue Galaxy first, though, is that this normal collection is potentially doubled as I go through that normal collection cycle. And obviously Hover is still included in my Blue Galaxy hits, but I don't farm that with FSP kits until I hit Blue Galaxy level 65, 70, 75, whatever, where the percentage on Blue Galaxy becomes a little bit more consistent. And the advantage here is that for the first 65 levels of Blue Galaxy, I've been hitting stuff like Moogle's Temple, Shinto, Yardasil, even Sailmakers, Celtic Glassworks on some of the earlier levels of Blue Galaxy, just to burn up Blue Galaxy levels. And it's only the possibility of 8 FSP fragments. But if it burns up a Blue Galaxy level and increases my available FSP kits, that's something that I'll be able to use to capitalize on once I get into Blue Galaxy level 60, 65. Final thought with this whole process, store kits is the root question here, is the root idea. But there's a little bit more to this, so this is the final thought for the video. If you decide to delete Blue Galaxy, be very intentional about the buildings that you plant in your city and potentially collect with Blue Galaxy charges as you go. And remember, the advantage with deleting Blue Galaxy is that the charges that you're using from 0 to 60 are disposable. It's buildings that we normally wouldn't hit or wouldn't be desirable to hit with Blue Galaxy if it was high level, like a Blue Galaxy 140. I'm not going to go out of my way to hit a Sunhaven for 13 forge points, right? That wouldn't normally be a Blue Galaxy candidate. But the advantage of deleting Blue Galaxy and kind of terraforming my city temporarily is that I have the ability to hit 8 of these 3 Blue Galaxy cycles at a time on those earlier levels. And if it doubles, cool. If it doesn't, whatever. It's gonna, either way, it's gonna add to my total daily FSP production, right? That's my personal goal. But there's other scenarios that a person could use quote unquote subpar hardware like Sunhavens, and I'm going to give you a few examples of this that might be beneficial to your city depending on where you struggle in the game. But be very intentional about this as you delete Blue Galaxy. I'm going to give you guys a few examples of quote unquote subpar buildings that might be beneficial to plant as well as hit with Blue Galaxy charges as you go through this recycle process. Example number 1 would be the Thundering Lab, which you can collect with Blue Galaxy in order to generate fragments for Nightmare Box. It's a little 1x2 that gives store item kits. I have 2 of them in inventory, and I actually considered planting them for my Blue Galaxy cycle, but I also get a ton of hauler fragments from Yuki's, which gives store kits and supply rush kits, and I had bunch of those in inventory, so I decided just to stick with that. But if you don't have Yukis, or have a way to generate more Yukis, you definitely are going to need store kits for this process. So look in your inventory for a Thundering Labs. It was a Halloween main prize from a couple years ago and was readily accessible just from free play prizes last year. So I think everyone should have a couple of these in inventory by now. Check your inventory for that. That gives Nightmare Box fragments for store kits, and not something that I want planted in my city just in general, let alone something that I would hit with the Blue Galaxy. But if you are going to delete your Blue Galaxy, be intentional about the fragments that you're collecting in the process. This is a good way to get store kits. On a side note too, I have, I think, 21, 22 of the Nightmare boxes from when I did have the labs planted. I generated enough of those. I decided not to plant it again for the Blue Galaxy process, but definitely worth having in my city. And at the end of this, when I go back to kind of the balanced city that I do want, right? Like my ideal city doesn't have a whole lot of sun havens in it. So when I do revert back to my ideal city layout, the Nightmare boxes will actually stay, just because the footprint is so much smaller than a hauler. So really good hardware to accumulate. Another good one is Ori. The Stage of Ages fragments aren't super desirable in my opinion. They tend to pop up as daily specials in pretty much every event, so the Stage of Ages are pretty easy to get. But the supply rushes that come from Ori, 30-minute supply rushes, come in pretty handy with rival tasks. Pretty minimal on population, but if you're a Space Hub player, the previous era goods, and it's pretty healthy. I think it's about 200, maybe 250 previous era goods. Kind of comes in handy for continuing to level up your Titan Great Buildings. Plus the 30-minute supply rush kits for rival tasks. Druid Huts, this is mostly directed towards lower era players that might be considering Blue Galaxy deletion. Druid Hut itself gives coin boost as well as fragments for the Druid trees. Druid trees provide primarily single self-aid off of the Tree of Patience, would be my recommendation for this project, since we're looking at FSP use combined with single aid use, right? Like, you collect your city, but you want to farm something, so you need a single self aid and a single finish. So the Druid trees pair pretty well with that. But the Tree of Vitality and Tree of Silence also give Reno kits and 1-up kits, respectively. Plus the coin boost, so if you are a lower era player with a Hydra or a Pegasus or something like that, the coin boost will help you continually leveling up your Hydra and Pegasus without necessarily being compelled to jump up to the next era for coin production. So Druid Huts would be a quote-unquote subpar building that I would consider planning in this process, depending on your city. Nutcracker, or if you don't have them, the chocolate factory parent, in order to generate mass aids. So throughout this process, depending on how aggressively you recycle Blue Galaxy, you will need a lot of mass aids as well as single aids. And if you're low on those or breaking even, probably include a chocolate factory. Definitely include a couple nutcrackers in your city for the process. And if you don't have nutcracker, include a chocolate. Hit the chocolate with Blue Galaxy until you generate enough nutcrackers. Chocolate itself is not worth having. It's not like Druid Hut gives coin boost directly from the parent building. Chocolate itself is not worth planning. It's just a means to the nutcracker end. So if you have enough nutcracker in storage, plant a couple of those for this process. Vineyard is the vineyard in however you say it, Mama Jadori Shrine, whatever. These kind of meet the same criteria, and this is the last item on the list that I would consider quote-unquote subpar. I actually still have my Mama Jadori Shrines planted just because they have a spot for an uncommon ally. But overall, the statistics on both of them are kind of mediocre in my opinion. The advantage with both those is that they print fragments for what I consider disposable production buildings. So Vineyard gives fragments for Pumpkin specifically would be my motivation to plant the vineyard. Vineyard gives fragments for shroom throne, which gives fragments for pumpkin. Cider garden is also usable to some extent, not necessarily the building itself, but just the act of having the ability to plant it at will is usable sometimes. So the same is true for Mama Jadori Shrine, creating koi fragments. I usually keep a 2x2 location down at this corner, which is currently just a store item producer. But normally I have a 2x2 location that's just empty in that part of my map for the purpose of one of two rival tasks, and that's either to plant a current age production building or to gain happiness. So let's look at the production buildings that we have available. There's a 4x4, which in order to satisfy a task, we don't necessarily need to build it on a 2-lane street. You just need to plant it somewhere in the city. But it's 4x4, right? The next smallest is previous era, which is 4x4. We get down into, I think it's 4x3 somewhere. I thought there was a 4x3. Oh, they're all huge. Dang. 4x3. There it is from Oceanic. So that's definitely not going to satisfy the rival task to plant a production building from my age or the previous age, because they're all 4x4 or larger, right? But I do have the ability to plant a pumpkin and delete it. I don't even need to store it because I've produced so many of them that I can honestly just delete it and not miss it on a 2x2 and just delete it. The 2x2 also comes in happy for gain happiness requirement for Space Hub, and then lower eras you always have a 2x2 option basically for decorations, and you can just plant and delete that decoration ad nauseum until you meet the task criteria. Does that make sense? So in terms of oddball buildings that we plant, those would be my recommendations on the supply side as well, I guess, since we're on that topic. The 30-minute supplies I do like, and I'm kind of sort of running out of them in my mind, but I also have so many 6-hour supply rushes that if it's like a complete 1-hour supply task thing, I don't use 30 minutes, just because I don't have a whole lot of those, but I'm more than happy to burn up a 6-hour supply rush kit just to finish 1-hour production timers. Oh, actually on that note too, we need finished goods for supply, or for rival tasks. So finished goods production, we definitely need a few of those. Himalayan firs is a good one, so check your guys' inventory for that. Not something that I would normally plant in my city. Obviously all mine are in storage, and I have plenty more from these selection kits. Not something that I would normally have planted, but for the purpose of deleting Blue Galaxy and kind of terraforming our city to catch up on fragment production, Himalayan firs might be a good one to plant. Sorry if I rambled. I was trying to keep this short. I hope it's informative, at least. The idea here is that deleting Blue Galaxy creates a lot of freedom in the ability to harvest fragments that you normally wouldn't go after with Blue Galaxy, because you're trying to really capitalize on your limited number of Blue Galaxy charges, as well as potentially limited FSP in storage or from daily production. So you're trying to capitalize on those two things, but the act of deleting Blue Galaxy actually gives you a lot of freedom to not only continue harvesting the fragments that you're actually after, by increasing daily FSP total output just from the auto collect button, as well as targeting certain buildings like Sun Havens, Moogle, Yardasil, things like that. specifically with Blue Galaxy charges in order to increase the amount of FSP you actually have in storage. So we're attacking FSP on two different fronts here. That's one advantage, but the other advantage is that in the process of recycling Blue Galaxy, hitting Ori now all of a sudden with a Blue Galaxy charge is not as suicidal as it would be if you had a Blue Galaxy 150, where you're like, I need every single charge to go to the thing that really matters the most. No, hit the Ori, get the 30-minute supply rush kits, because it's going to improve your game overall. Does that make sense? And then at the end of the process, once you have accumulated enough FSP kits from Blue Galaxy level 0 to 60, then you can spend the last 40 levels just hitting every single Blue Galaxy level on the thing that you actually want to target. Rinse and repeat. Mind the gap though. Make sure you don't run out of blueprints, or at least have buddies that are equally suicidal in running theirs, so that you have a constant income on the blueprint side. So that's it for the Blue Galaxy project. This ended up being longer than I wanted, but I hope it is helpful for you guys, and please drop me a like and subscribe if it was. I appreciate you guys. Bye.